we're going to head to back to the East Coast in Massachusetts, where we'll hear from Dana on how open source maintainers build the infrastructure that Python science runs on, but most of them can't tell you how many people actually depend on what they built. So this talk is about changing that and about what Anaconda is building to make your packages impact visible, your CI, CD pipelines more secure, and your work findable at the moment developers need it most. Let's virtual hand claps and welcome Dana to the stage.
Hi, I'm Dana Boquin, and I'm going to be talking to you about everything that MK just covered. And I thought that to get started, I should probably introduce myself because why am I here and why should you care? So I am currently a developer relations engineer at Anaconda, where I'm working to represent developer needs back to Anaconda. But before that, I actually spent about 10 years in academia working primarily with astronomers and astrophysicists, where my research focus was on scholarly communication, software preservation, and software citation. So a lot of the work that I've done in the past has been around making sure that people who develop software get appropriate credit and attribution for the work that they've done. This is something that I think is essential to the future of open source science and just to ensuring that people who write software in these settings can build a career. But in the work that I've done in those areas, some of the research is kind of surfaced the idea that infrastructure, at least in academic settings, doesn't really capture the citations that people make to software very well. And so a lot of my time in an academic setting was spent working with a group called Force 11 and a few others to try to develop principles and tooling to push forward machine actionable citations. So I guess all this to say that I really deeply understand the need to get your software out there to make it sure it's attributed back to you and make sure you can market it essentially. After I left academia, I became a data scientist for about 3 years, working in nonprofit and government settings. So I've been a developer myself. And so I guess a foundational through line through all of that has just been really this question that if people building software can't represent their impact, what does that mean for them? How does that impact them? And what can infrastructure do about it? And now being at Anaconda in another infrastructure setting, I'm looking to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make it so that's not as much of a problem for you as it has been in the past. Um, that said, we still do have problems. So, like MK alluded to or said kind of outright, that your packages are out there, your workflows, your packages are powering millions of workflows through anaconda.org, and you basically can't answer some really simple questions about that usage. So, how many people actually depend on what I built? If you can't answer that question, you're going to have a hard time making a case for yourself. And so right now, there are issues with anaconda.org where things like download counts are just flat numbers. You don't have much visibility into the downstream dependencies or your geographic reach. And that makes it difficult to justify continued investment in your package if you really are kind of just handicapped in your ability to share what you're doing in a way that has metrics to back it up. Um, Luckily, though, we can fix this. So, what I'm going to talk about now are a few things that Anaconda is working on within the coming year. And, you know, all of these things are still in flux. I kind of want to like emphasize that a bit so that it's clear that what you say back to us really can influence and shape what we're doing. But this is kind of what we're building towards. So, the heading says it right here, that marketing your project starts with knowing your story. We want to make sure that there's visibility into the impact that you have. So what platforms are being used, architectures, geographies, and we want to make it so there's shareable proof that you can make it clear to people outside of just having to like dig into the download count of a registry page. You have a way to really like show off what you're doing. And so we're thinking of a social card showing your downloads. and that there's real infrastructure to support that story so you can tell it yourself. So an open API for anaconda.org so that you can build on top of the data that we're going to be providing in a lot more flexible way. So building towards having your package data more accessible and being able to share your impact more clearly, having an open API for anaconda.org, and also thinking more about AI integrations to help you surface what you're doing at the point that people are going to be trying to use your tools when they start talking to an agent. And so how are we planning to do this? This is kind of two things up here that I thought go together really well, but there's a effort right now that the team is calling maintainer wrapped. So you've probably seen like your Spotify wrapped or something like that, where there's basically like on an annual basis this nice summary that comes out that really kind of captures what you've done with a particular platform. And that's kind of what we're thinking with Anaconda as well. So having an annual or even quarterly impact report on your packages showing your download counts, your distribution, version adoption, all of this information so that you can make it very easily shareable in a public link or a social card so you can really like blast out there, this is what I've built. This is why it matters. Look at its use over this period of time. We want that to be really easy for you. There's also a push for package analytics to make a dedicated analytics view for logged in maintainers. So you'll be able to monitor like real time more closely what is going on with your package, who's using it, looking more at things like the architecture breakdown, Python version mix, top dependent packages. This we want to have it be co-built with the community, and we want to really understand what would be most actionable to you before it's really clear like what goes into these analytics. So this is kind of like we're still figuring out exactly what this looks like, and that's deliberate. We want this to be built with you. Um, Along with those two initiatives, we've also recognized that Anaconda.org is kind of behind the times in terms of trusted publishing. Right now, in order to publish, you've got these long-lived Anaconda tokens that have to be stored as GitHub secrets. They never expire. This is a real anti-pattern in security where it's basically like we've done this, but it doesn't really accomplish what it's set out to do. And we're building towards having more direct OIDC token exchange so that there are no more shared secrets, having you register a trust policy to link your repo with your workflow, and having GitHub Actions really step in to handle that exchange. We also want to have an official Anaconda publish Conda action in the GitHub marketplace to make this so it's something that's easy for you to adopt. And I mentioned the open API. This is something that's an ongoing conversation, but basically the thing I want you to realize is that we want this to be built with you. This is something where the shape of it has to come from the people who will be using it. And the thing that we're recognizing and trying to make really obvious is that this data that we have is meaningfully yours, and we want to make sure it's useful so that you can take your package data, you can build dashboards, generate shareable content, and integrate stats with things like your README and other reporting requirements you might have. So we want that to be as simple as possible. And in order to accomplish any of this, we really need people to get involved. So I've got two ways that people can get involved in this work right here. One of them is paid research studies. These are formal compensated studies that would be exploring how you use anaconda.org and what you need from it. But that might be a bit intimidating. And there's also just a much less formal way to get involved, and that's just by having conversations. So that means either reaching out to me, or I'm going to share some contact information with you on the next slide for someone named Lily, excuse me, Lily Winfrey, who will be more like the direct contact for these initiatives. But we really, really, really want to make sure that everything that we're building for you actually meets your needs, so that it's clear to you that you're being heard. And so I'm putting up here the contact information for Lily, who is really kind of the person taking charge on many of these initiatives. And so do either you can directly schedule a call with her, you can email her, and either she will just set up an informal conversation with you or be able to get you connected to be part of a formal research study. So, you know, please do reach out. And also me, I'm just someone who you can feel comfortable talking to. And I just wanted to share like my commitments to this community. Why would you reach out to me? So if something we built doesn't work for you, I want to know about it. Um, and I don't want this to just come through in a survey. I want to have a real conversation so I can be confident that I really understand what you need. And I am personally accountable for bringing maintainer and developer needs back to the product team. So this is my whole job. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I am really trying to understand what you need so that we can make sure you get it. And I'll do everything I can to help. So, that's it from me. I think that I'm at time. So please just, let me know if there's anything I can do to help.